have
Unmute.
the text that we usually use. Mm, so we are not going to do the share screen this way. We can see more people. Let me change this to gallery view. Yep, now it's gallery view, I believe. And so we're going to start with the opening recitation. This evening, we're going to do the opening recitation all in English. And we're going to go all the way through, actually, doing it in a way that is sort of like chanting, but not really chanting, but neither is it reading the way that one might be reading more normally. So it's a hybrid, so to say. It's a cross between reading and chanting. So as I've said before, one way to relate to this convention of recitation, we can call it recitation, to recite. One is, of course, to say out loud. That's one of the aspects of recitation. And the other is to, in this context, to also sort of use it as a way to train in the kind of, to train in letting the mind settle, settle calmly, settle in a state of calm, in a state of evenness. Yeah. That is what we call shamatha. So in that way, while the meaning of these words can also come in, and that you can sort of also see it considered as the insight part of this practice. Yeah. So one thing is, shamatha, vipassana, due to the peculiar way they are used these days, people tend to think of them as referring to the methods or the techniques. But if you go to the earliest layer of the Buddhist teachings, you'll see that shamatha and vipassana refer less to the techniques that are used, but rather than two qualities of mind that we should cultivate. Two states of mind, two quality of mind that are complementary, in fact. So your practice of calm abiding, your allowing your mind to settle in a state of calm abiding, should then be, the purpose of that should be to increase clarity or special insight. And special insight or clarity leads to a more calm and even state of mind. So once we see that, once we recognize that, then no matter what practice or technique that we use, then is no longer whether the practice or the technique can or cannot do something, but rather, do we know how to use the technique? Do we know how to use the practice in order to enhance these two qualities of mind? Which is a mind that abides evenly and calmly. But in the state of evenness and calmness, it is also bright, brilliant, and has understanding, has insight. Yeah. So even something like doing the opening recitation, it can give rise to both of these. how it can give rise to calm abiding is when we recite, we want our minds to stay with the syllable, the sound, the word that we're reading in that moment. So here, the object used for achieving calm abiding is a moving object. Just like breath, it can be an object, and breath is a moving object, as opposed to a stationary object, like a pebble, like a Buddha image, stationary. But there's also moving objects that can help us have achieve this kind of level. Now, a moving object is not going to necessarily lead to what we might call dhyana states or jhana states, which is mental absorption. Those you still have to use if you are aiming to those states of mind where it's a state of mental absorption. Again, there is a place and a time to cultivate that and to experience that. But more generally, those mental absorption states, you and I, probably we don't have the discipline, the time, and also the reasons to want to go into those states of mind. So what we can, I say, use in a very practical way is more that evenness of mind, that calmness of mind that can arise from moving objects. And then in that sense, in a way, you could say having a moving object help you get to that place of calm and evenness is more practical than having a unmoving object. Because in your day-to-day life, you can't tell things to kind of freeze so that you can be calm and even, right? So if you get used to how moving objects can also contribute to this calm and evenness of mind, then you can integrate better on cushion and off cushion. So as we say the word, so the words are said rather quick, rather rapid, and there's a reason for that, which is it will keep the mind more focused. It's sort of like when you are like roller skating, down a hill, when it's downhill and it's fast, you're very present for it, you don't have a chance for your mind to wander here, wander there. So in the same way, why these recitations, can be fast, or recommended to be relatively faster than ordinary reading, is that it can kind of rein you in, pull you in so that your mind don't go here, there, everywhere. So that's the speed. But at the same time, we're also listening to what is being said. And then when we listen to what is being said, here and there, little sparks of insight can arise. But when the spark of insight or understanding that arises in the context of this recitation, you have no time to kind of like, oh, let me think about it. So that means this. See, that's when the mind again, wanders off, right? So then the insights or the understanding that arises is very instantaneous, but you also learn to let go. So then you won't get stuck as well. So in a way, chanting practice, recitation practice, if we know how to use it, then it can achieve what we're talking about, shamatha, vipassana, calm abiding, special insight, it can achieve that. But if we don't know how to use it, then it becomes a kind of superstition. It becomes like just formality. Then the fault is not in the method. The fault is we don't know how to use the method. Yeah, so now we're going to do this, the opening recitation. Yeah, so whatever meanings, whatever words, whatever insight comes, let them come. Then no time to get stuck on it, because you have to move with the chant, with the recitation. Then in doing the recitation and the chant, remember, what you are aiming for is this evenness. And therefore also, like in the traditional chant in exotic languages, or the way we're going to read this, kind of rather rapid in English, it doesn't have high and up and down, and because it's also being used as a way to promote this evenness of mind. Yeah. So as you do more of this, over time, you are going to discover how something as simple as opening recitation can give rise to these two quality of mind. On the one hand, shamatha, on the other hand, vipassana. Okay, so we'll start. I noticed down there's some chat going on about having text, don't have text. So if somebody has the text, it's okay in this group to share in that chat group, so that right now, whoever doesn't have it can download it from the chat. But I think there's a process on how to get access to the protected area and all of that. And if for some reason you're not getting it, probably on your end you need to figure out how, because I think majority is my sense of people who registered were able to do, and Javier is way more disciplined than I am, and I know he's very diligent in making sure that at least on the website end things will work. Then on your end, as I always say to people, you need to go grab a teenager and pay that person. They can solve these problems. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind root Guru, the embodiment of the exalted body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Tathagatas of the 10 directions, and 3 times source of the 84,000 heaps of Dharma and Lord of all the noble Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind written lineage Gurus. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the idams. We take refuge in the Buddha Bhagavans. We take refuge in the perfect dharmas. We take refuge in the noble sanghas. We take refuge in the assemblies of Viras, Dakinis, and Dharmapalas, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind written lineage Gurus. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the idams. We take refuge in the Buddha Bhagavans. We take refuge in the perfect dharmas. We take refuge in the noble sanghas. We take refuge in the assemblies of Viras, Dakinis, and Dharmapalas, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind written lineage Gurus. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the idams. We take refuge in the Buddha Bhagavans. We take refuge in the perfect dharmas. We take refuge in the noble sanghas. We take refuge in the assemblies of Viras, Dakinis, and Dharmapalas, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Until I attain the heart of Bodhi, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharmas, and likewise in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas develop Bodhi mind and progress on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of wandering beings, give rise to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of Bodhi, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas develop Bodhi mind and progress on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all wandering beings, give rise to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of Bodhi, I take refuge in all the Buddhas, I take refuge in the Dharmas, and likewise in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas develop Bodhi mind and progress on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all wandering beings, give rise to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. Then now, in the Dhyana Mudra, may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja. So now in the Anjali Mudra. Protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dupe Aloke Gende Nevede Shakta Pratitya Swaha. This ground, sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, fall continent, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Namo to the Guru, the complete purity of phenomenal existence. I make offerings to you who manifest in the ground of phenomenal existence, and supplicate you for the total liberation of the three realms. Grant your blessings of dredging samsara from its very depths. Lord, which fulfilling gem, ornament of my crown, beyond word and expression, is your victorious mind. Endowed with the five superior primordial wisdoms, epitome of love, the one with kindness, precious protector of wandering beings. I supplicate you in the innate state of my mind, bless me in the state of suchness, grant your blessings for realizing this primordially birthless and completely pristine mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thoughts. To the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the full destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Gone to bliss, knower of the worlds, tamer of beings, charioteer and unsurpassable one, teacher of gods and humans, the supreme and incomparable king of the Shakyas, who is free from the minutest stains, placing my head at your feet, I pay homage with devotion. When you were born supreme among humans, you paced out 7 steps on this great earth and declared, I am supreme in this world. Homage to you, who was wise even then. Possessing a pure body and an excellent supreme form, an ocean of wisdom, a mountain of gold, famed throughout the 3 worlds, homage to you, supreme protector. With the supreme marks in a face like the stainless moon, homage to you, golden colored one, free from stains. There is none like you in the 3 worlds. Homage to you, incomparably wise one. Supreme among humans, charioteer and tamer of beings, the Tathagata who severs the all-enmeshing fetters, who with senses pacified and utterly pacified is skillful. Homage to you, who dwelt at Shravasti. You, protector who possesses great kindness, all-knowing teacher, perfect one, basis of oceans of merit and qualities. Homage to you, the Tathagata. Purity, the cause of freedom from attachments, virtue that liberates from the lower realms. This alone is the sublime ultimate reality. Homage to the Dharma that pacifies. Having been liberated, you show the path to liberation. Devoted to the moral precepts, you are a field of perfect qualities. Homage to you, the sublime Sangha. And now, let your body and mind settle into their own places. Sit in a way that is even, balanced, and stable. Traditionally, the full lotus position is recommended, but many of us probably will find it very hard to sit like that. No matter, because the key point of this Vajra posture, the Vajra asana, is said that this asana, this posture, promotes a way of sitting that is most stable and even. So, however you sit, you want to ensure that you're sitting evenly, meaning your weight is distributed evenly, and you're not leaning one side or the other side, causing strain, pressure on a certain part of your body. But instead, sit in such a way where your weight is evenly and equally distributed. If you're sitting on the floor with a cushion, often people don't seem to know this, but the cushion, you don't sit on the entire cushion. The cushion is tucked to the back so that it offers some support in a way that you can kind of think of it as establishing 3 points of this tripod. The 2 points are provided by your you think in terms of like the 2 knees, the 2 points, and then your backbone, your tailbone is the 3rd point that is being supported by the cushion. And so then be stable like a big bell resting on the ground. Then your back needs to be upright. In fact, at the beginning, you can pull yourself upwards, as if something is pulling your entire spine upwards. Hold it in with a little bit of tension, a little bit, and as you exhale, relax your back. Inhale, pull up, 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 hold. Hold for a few moments. Exhale. And let your spine, your body rest. Do that a few times. And tilt a little bit to the front after that, and a little bit to the back, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Almost like a pendulum that is finding its own place of rest and equilibrium. Third point, your two hands hold in the Dhyana Mudra. Right palm resting on left palm. The two thumbs are touching lightly. Then held in front so that your belly button, imagine as if that hand is holding that area. This mudra is holding that area. Your two hands in the Dhyana Mudra. Fourth point, your shoulders should be open backwards, even some tension pulling backwards a little. Inhale like that, and then exhale and let it rest. And do that a few times, and then settle. Set that your shoulders should be open like that of a lion. This will prevent the mind from so easily getting drowsy. Fifth point is your chin should be pulled in, slightly in your chin, so that your chin is not pointing upwards. Your chin should be pulled in and downwards a little, so that they say your head and your neck is elegant like that of a swan. Sixth point is your mouth should be closed, lightly but closed, lightly closed, so that your tongue is resting on the top of your mouth, on the roof of your mouth, with the tip of your tongue touching where your gums and the teeth meet. And the last point is your vision follows in the direction of the bridge of your nose and falls into that area in front of you. Keeping your eyelids slightly opened is what's often recommended, especially in the Mahamudra tradition. These are known as the 7 points, the 7 elements of the posture of Vairochana. Vairochana means all illuminating. It's the name of a Buddha. But here, Vairochana is referring to how if we are able to sit in this way, and then our minds become Vairochana, becomes all illuminating, bright and strong. To sit is to be Buddha. To be Buddha is to sit. Not literally sit, but what this sitting is pointing to. What it points to is the nature of our minds, where innately it is always in a state of evenness and calmness, as well as bright and all illuminating. So to be this, to be able to experience this, is to be a Buddha. And when you are Buddha, this then becomes a constant state of being. So again, good evening to everyone. All of you are from various parts. Some of you are in Asia. Good morning. Then some of you are in further west from the East Coast, where a handful of us are from the East Coast. So all different time zones. This is the miracle of modern technology, as well as the frustration of modern technology. Anyway, any questions about what you heard about the recitation, and as well as the meditation, questions or comments, just to point out some of the Zoom things, you can scroll, to see who everybody is, where everybody is. And so that's what I'm doing. Scroll. I don't know if when I scroll, it is affecting what you are seeing. I don't think so. Yeah, so you'll have to scroll.
Concerning the recitation that we were doing, that method, you were talking about the two sides of the calm abiding and insight part of it, and the sounds sort of go together, so it's you sort of get into the flow, so to speak, and that's the calm abiding. But then every once in a while, like a phrase will pop out or something, and it'll just sort of light up, like a spark in there.
Right.
I always find that happening when we do it this way.
Yeah. So Joe is in Nashville, and so when we have been at the temple for a few years, we're doing this, and certainly has experience of doing it as a group. And of course, when we do it as a group, as in like when all the voices can be heard, so then that also takes it to another level. So we were just talking with someone about, moving forward post-pandemic, is it going to go back to before Zoom? Or so I said, well, it'll be a hybrid, I mean, in general, I'm not talking about this meeting. In terms of this meeting, don't worry, like post-pandemic, then those of us who can gather in the temple in Nashville, we will gather there. Then we will still be Zooming, because the nature of our group is across time zones and in different physical spaces. But in general, there's talk about that. Question about how, and I think that anyway, there's something to be said about still gathered together in the same physical space. But the chant, yeah, so that point about how, because of the relative speed, and flow, right? So you kind of enter the flow, and so you're like in the zone, right? But then, because it's in a language that you recognize, then certain words will kind of pop up, and yeah, that's.
Hi, Dr. Lai. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My name is
Oh, you are a little choppy, I think. Maybe if you try turning off video and see if that will improve. I think maybe the bandwidth is a little low where you are.
okay. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. So I think it's a bandwidth issue on your end.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm living in a really small town, so
Where
I
are
have
you?
really bad bandwidth right now. I have a question.
Yeah,
I'm in
where are
Oaxaca,
you?
Mexico,
Oh,
in a
Oaxaca.
place
Okay.
called San Agustin.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, the
Oaxaca.
land of mezcal and
Mezcal
chapulines and
and
many nice
cheese.
things.
There's a special cheese from Oaxaca. Did you know
Cheese,
that?
exactly.
Yeah, Oaxaca has a special Oaxaca cheese. Yes, go ahead. Oh, oh, hello.
Oh goodness, sorry. I have really
Oh,
bad bandwidth.
okay.
Forgive
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So
Go ahead
I'll
and
get
try.
back to my question.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about a year and a half that one of my fellow Sangha members gave me some, are maybe they're like chants or mantras
Mm-hmm.
from, who was it that gave them? I think it was Lama Yeshe, who gave them a
Mm-hmm.
really long time ago. And
Mm-hmm.
then Lama Sopa also
Mm-hmm.
promotes them with the FMTP. And
Oh, yes.
it's these three chants that are Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sarama Hajavahum,
Mm-hmm.
Om
Mm-hmm.
Smara Smara, that one, and
Yes.
then Om Ruchiramani Pravartayahum, Dayata
Yes.
Dare Dare Vendare. So I just want
Yeah.
to ask, are these chants effective? Are they,
Well,
do they work?
it's up to you, you know.
Okay,
Whether they work or not, you know, it's up to us, right? And
okay.
depending on how disciplined our minds, they work better than than not. So at the end of the day, it depends on us. The mantras that you mentioned, they are what's known as the multiplying mantras. The idea is that if you proceed before you do any mantra recitation, if you do those multiplying mantras, it will somehow affect the quality of the mantras that you do after reciting that. So in the Vajrayana sources, there's lots of stuff like that. As to how they work, how well they work, how literally they work, I think you have to discover it yourself.
Do you recite them personally or?
Sometimes, if the sadhana that I'm using says do it, then we do it, you know. If the sadhana doesn't say it, then I don't do it, you know.
Yeah, the thing is, I've been doing them like maybe religiously for the last
Oh, good. Yeah,
year and a
yeah.
half. So I don't know if it's working. I really have no idea, but
Yeah, you know, it's not that hard to do it, you know. Since you've been doing it, just continue, you know. What I can say is that, yeah, it's definitely part and parcel of the longer practices. They will have mantras like this. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for my bandwidth.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Don't worry about it.
Dr. Lee?
Yeah.
I don't know, in page number 7,
Yes.
I don't know if I miss it, but for example, this ground, when I don't know if I have to do the mandala mudra.
Oh, no need for here. Yeah. No need to do the mandala mudra for page 7, and normally not done in the monastery when they are chanting this opening prayers. It's a good question because somebody asked, like, why not? I said, I don't know. They don't do it, so we don't do it, you know.
Okay. In other cases, I remember that we do
Yes, in
the
other
short.
cases, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Just in this particular instance, like also like argam padyam pushpe, right? Also, they don't do the argam padyam pushpe like at this point. Again, I don't know why. Yeah,
Okay.
but
Thank
they
you.
don't. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And also like normally, right? At this point, argam padyam, like this, and then shabda praticca swaha, then the music comes, or the instruments, tarang 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 dum dum dum, but they don't in the monastery. This instance, yeah, yeah. So just some of the conventions that have been established over time, you know, like the opening aspiration, engagement, bodhicitta. Aspiration, bodhicitta, we do 3 times. Engagement, bodhicitta recitation, we do 1 time. Why? I don't know. It's a convention, that's been established. Then we can either fight with the convention, or we can say, here's something to just, do it, as a discipline. Okay, so if there are no further questions or comments about this opening, then the meditation, just briefly, I briefly went over the 7 points of Vairochana. The main thing is that, again, don't try like too hard, like it's good to be diligent, but don't put your diligence in the wrong area, as in like, oh, there are these 7 points, then I need to go memorize them. And then when you try to, you read up what the 7 points are, and then you try to follow them, and then you might do it in a very rigid way, and then you cannot relax at all. That is not the point. The 7 points of Vairochana, these are, I like to call them like prompts, They are, if it's good if, in a very gentle way, you can remember what the 7 points are. Because then throughout the whole session as you're sitting, as you're engaging in this formless meditation or, single pointed meditation, during this time, it's not a, like these seated meditation without chanting, without mudras, things like that. Sometimes we think that we have to like remain frozen in one thing. It's not like that, It's like you move around in the bag of resources that you have. Yeah. So sometimes if let's say you say, okay, I'm going to let breath be the object. Okay, then after a while, if that starts to, kind of not work so well, then you check your body placement. How is your body placement? Then that's when remembering any of the 7 points of Vairochana can help you kind of reinvigorate. So you check the 7 points, right? So check until the 7 points, and in checking the 7 points, rather than saying, the body needs to be this way or that way, think of it more as like it's a prompt to remind the body, like if you settle in this way, then it will become more comfortable. You'll become more at ease. Then you settle and settle and settle and settle. So these are all like kind of different tools that you can have at your disposal. And do not, I mean, if you ask me, do not like be rigid with the do's and the don'ts. I think sometimes we become too rigid and we try too hard, to do it the right way. It's kind of the people living in the US, the type A, like gotta get it right, It's like, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win, So even the sitting, I have to win. I have to be the best, Also then, hoping to impress yourself, impress the teacher, impress, I don't know, people sitting next to you, then it's counterproductive in the end, My simple kind of aphorism, or so to say, for practice is, do your best to understand and to receive the transmission of the lineage, of the tradition, all of that. Do your best to do that. Don't so quickly want to change things. Don't so quickly think I know better, all of that. So in that sense, my style is, be as conservative, traditional as possible, in the spirit of appreciating that the lineage, I'm not talking about conservative generally speaking, but in terms of our practice, right? Sort of trusting that, the lineage, this collective wisdom of the lineage, there's something to it. So then we do our best to learn, right, what has been passed down. But that cannot be held on to rigidly without balancing it with the other concern, which is be honest and take responsibility for your own process. These two have to come together. Look closely at your own process. Be honest with that process. Be sensitive to what that process requires. Otherwise, it's also not going to work. If you are just trying to force yourself, right, into what the tradition says, I don't believe it will work in the end. Likewise, you cannot just say, oh, I trust my experience. I only trust my experience. I only trust my own process. I only trust my own ideas. Then why even bother, to learn or to train in the particular tradition, Just do your own thing. It might work. Who knows, I don't know. So balancing these two sides, I think, is important. So now, before we continue, what I want to start covering, like I said, we are going to start using this text called Chodra's 35 Pieces of Advice. We're going to start doing anchoring like our weekly meetings with that as the theory side. Then the practice side is going to be the Ngondro, called the Blazing Splendor. Blazing Splendor is a text, it's a meditation manual for practicing the fivefold Mahamudra. But what we're doing is only taking the preliminary section of this Blazing Splendor Fivefold Mahamudra manual, which was composed by Drigong Chodra or Drigong Dhammakirti. So our common practice text is going to be the Ngondro, or the preliminary practice, or the foundational practice for the Blazing Splendor Fivefold Mahamudra. Then, but before we get into that, some more basic kind of maybe information, would be good to go over. But tonight, before we go in that direction, Javier, do you think you are ready to show us some things about, getting into the protected area and what's in there?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
walk us through that. Some of us might not have even gone to the protected area, you know.
Sure. Can you make me co-host
Oh
so
yeah,
I can share?
sure. Yeah.
So
Let's
I
see.
let's try to get that quickly.
Oh, I can't. The all-powerful
Oh,
one is not me tonight. Hey, Omar,
Yes,
Omar,
give me a second.
thank you.
he's playing God tonight. Zoom God. Usually he's just demigod, but when I came in, I had to leave to redo my camera, so I made him God. So
All right. Okay. So, sure if I'm doing it correctly. Can you see my screen?
yes, I can. Mhm.
Perfect. Okay. So
Oh,
let's.
by the way,
Oh,
I took
yeah.
this picture in Bali. These two monkeys. Uh, and it was in Bali. It was in that temple where there's all these like dangerous monkeys. All these monkeys have learned that if they can steal something from you, you will ransom what they steal with food. So eyeglasses, they say, you know, take it down. Then any small objects, hide them, because these monkeys have figured out that if they can snatch something from you, then you will give them food in order for them to throw whatever they snatch from you back to you. But sometimes they throw that into the ocean side of things. So then tough luck. So anyway.
Okay. All right. So I guess first, just to make sure that I believe probably everyone here has done it. Maybe one or two have not, but do encourage you to go in and fill out the application with some questions that Dr. Lai has provided here. It also gives out, name, email, mailing address. This also helps out to create the mailing list for the DDIS Sangha. Basically communications that we're sharing between this group. So it's very important that we do this. So it can help us out here to create that. So once you do that, an email will go out. Make sure that you revisit your spam, other folders that we have in Gmail or other services that you might have with the email account. So in that email, a password will be shared to access the protected area. So that password is to go in, here, community, and you will see this where you can go in and type in the password. Hopefully I did it correctly, and I did not. There you go. I need help here. I think I got it right. Hopefully. Nope, guess not. One more chance. Let me see.
Tal vez te falta el signo de exclamación, Javier.
Probably. I don't know. I think let me do this here. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. 1 second. Okay. Let me see. I cleared the. Let me see. 1 second. I got it right. No, not really. So you will go.
The rest of you, don't worry,
It will work for you. Just let me go in as admin here. Just imagine that.
Okay, imagine it works.
So you go into community. Oh, here's asking me again. Hang on.
I couldn't even get into the part where they were asking us questions though. Where is that? Because I found like about and join us or contact us, and it
No,
just
no, you
asks
cannot
us.
find it. You cannot find it on the website.
It's separate. Let me share it on the chat
Yeah,
if I'm able
yeah,
to
on the
figure out
chat. It was
how
shared
to.
a few times on the chat and also shared on like Facebook postings. So yeah, just to point out, if you just go to the website, you're not going to find this application link.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find the chat while I'm sharing, and I have no idea how to get there. So, um,
Oh, here.
mute, stop video. Where is it?
It's okay. We can. Somebody else
Oh,
can put.
there we go. Here we go. I found it.
Okay.
So, so it's on the chat now. So that's where the form is.
Yeah, that's where the form is.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so with that password, you're gonna go in to that community page. In here, you'll find two main areas. One where you can download the texts, and the other one, which is the forum. Okay. So just really quick here, you'll click here and you'll see that right now we only have two. I understand that we'll populate this with more texts as we move forward. And then on the forum part, here is a place where we can, do our postings, questions, suggestions, introductions, or anything else that we would like to share with the Sangha here. So here's another aspect. You can either post as a guest, which means that your name will not show up on your posting. For example, here when we were having issues at the beginning, so it will show as guest, or you can go ahead and register. When you register, you're gonna be able
We
to.
encourage that you register.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. We encourage that everyone
Which I have not
register.
registered yet. So.
So once you hit register, basically a username is going to be asked and an email address for a password link to be sent out. So once you do this, you put XYZ, as your username, your email address, you put in your email address, and then that email will go out and it will be something like this, login details, where you can set your password. And here I've noticed I received some emails, and here also in the chat, I think it was pointed out that which password is which. You need the forum, you need to register to log in. What I suggest is just use the same password, and then that way you're going to avoid getting confused on which is which. That's my suggestion, but you're free to do here whatever you think it's best. So once you set your password, you will be able to log in into the forum and post with your name. So you log in here. Hopefully it will let me log in now. Okay, so I'm in. So I'm in as Javier here, which means that any post will be under my name, which is, like Dr. Lai mentioned, encouraged. And then you can check out the members. You can check out also, here are the members that have already successfully registered by now.
Wow, nice.
We have a few.
Yeah, you can also put a photo there so that we can match a name and a face.
Correct. And very important here,
On
once
the
you go to the
profile.
dashboard here from your profile, you'll see some boxes here. Basically, here is just WordPress giving out information about forums or events that they're hosting.
You can
Not
ignore
really
all of that.
relevant. Yeah, you can ignore that. Here, news and updates, you can also ignore that. Here, probably it's an area where you might be interested. Here, you'll see upcoming events that we're going to be posting on the programs page. Just as reminders, if you want to create a new event, you won't be able to because you don't have the permissions to do that. So don't worry about that. but this is just a good reminder of coming events. On the profile area, you can choose your color scheme, your first name, last name here, nickname that you want to be using, also how you want it displayed when you post in the forums, your email, which is required, website if you have. Here, I believe it's important to share just a few liners here to everyone to just get you on your background. Profile picture here, it will take you to a website. It's called Gravatar, which is related to WordPress. It's just another account that you need to create. Some might be hesitant to create another account in some other place with a new password. So I leave it up to you.
Right. Tricky.
Yeah, that's what they get you.
Okay, then don't push.
Yeah, I haven't done that. In case you forgot the password, you can set the new password here, which will be emailed the link to your email address. On the application passwords, I don't encourage to do this because this, I understand, works with the WordPress app. And right now, we don't have an app for the website. So I believe this only works for WordPress specifically. So I will leave that out for now. No need to. And then if you want to get notified when somebody mentions you on the forum, you can click here, unclick, up to you. And you update the profile. And make sure you do that if you do any changes, so it gets reflected on the system. And that's basically it. So sure if there are any questions, or if I went too quickly, or
go back to the community, the board, the discussion board.
The forum here.
Yeah, the forum. Yeah. So
yeah, here maybe suggestions if someone wants another area of discussions that could be suggested. Dr. Leiden can review it and see if that applies or not. Yeah. Not sure if you want to check something else here.
Let's see. Kathy had a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I registered, but I don't see myself on the list of members. Depends on what you registered.
Yeah, I registered for DDIS, but that doesn't mean I automatically show up as a member.
No, the forum is a specific registration.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's after you register as DDIS, then you go into the protected area, and then when you go to forum, there's another register in order to participate in the discussion that is inside the forum.
So it's basically 2 registrations, right? The first one here, which gives you the password to get into the community, and then one for the forum.
Yeah, so can you click the members, Javier?
Yeah, sure.
And see who has already done it. And then if you have done it, then you know, oh, it's
we got Antonio, we got Samantha, we got Alfred, Joyce, Alfred, Ana Isabel, Andrew, Claudia, Daniela, Kiwa, Eddie, okay, Eric. We got you as admin. Got Jasper, it's me, Casey, Magda, Omar, Susan, and Tracy.
Yeah. Good. So if you think you have registered here and you don't turn up on this list, then you should do it again. Yeah, this particular registration. Yeah.
And then very important to take a look at your folders in your email. Make sure that info@rickanddarmakirti.com is not labeled as spam or promotions or social. Market is primary. So you will know right
Yeah.
away when any
Yes.
email communication is out. Yep.
So in case I'll repeat what Javier said. This is like your email reader sometimes gets too clever because the communications that come from info@dragondemocracy.com is basically automated sending out. So sometimes your email reader might get too clever and decide that this is not important to you. Then they will hide it into some other folders. So you need to go seek out that email and mark it as primary. Again, how to mark it as primary? You might have to go find a teenager too.
I usually just like do here and then just drag it to primary.
Oh, okay.
And then it asks you down here that if you want to make that permanent or not.
Okay.
Just click yes, and then you're good.
I see. Okay, good. So that's the easy one. Drag that email to primary, the tab there, and drop it there. Yeah. There's a question.
Oh, Ivan, yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Is there a way to access this from my phone or an app for it?
No app, but you can access from your phone without any problems. Yes.
Yeah, using your browser on the phone.
Browser. Yeah, your browser. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, I see Jasper with his hand.
Hi. Yeah, just a question on password, right? Is the password to log in the web page as well as the WordPress will be the same password?
The password for your login, the same one as the community? Is that your question?
Yes.
It's up to you. It's up to you. I mean, the one for community, it is the one that we're emailing you that cannot be changed. However, the one for the forum, you can choose whatever you want. You can leave it as the same as the community. That way, avoid confusion which one's which, or you can change it. I mean, but it's only the forum one that can be changed. The community, it's
the community is preset. Yes.
Preset. That's the word.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, to get into the community protected area, that password is something that Javier sets for everyone. So then you use that one, and you have no control over changing that one. You use that one to get into the protected area. Then the protected area right now has two areas. One is to download the text that we use. There's no further password going on. But again, in this forum area, in this forum discussion, because we're using, I guess we call it a plugin, because we're using a plugin, and that's the technical term, that gives us that whole forum system. The plugin requires that you create a further kind of username and password. So there you can register the name, the second registration, and then you will be able to change the password if you want to change the password and add more information, just as what Javier was showing.
If you forget the password for the community, I suggest you go back to the original email where all the instructions are. That's where the password is. Just go ahead, type it, and you're good to go. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
right.
Then just to clarify, I know this is all very confusing. Yeah. So this is happening on the website. Then for those of you who do Facebook, there is a group, a private group called Dragong Dharma Kirti. I think most of you have already requested to be members there, and so you are there. And so our most popular post so far is on the home shrines. Everybody submitting a picture of your shrine. In whatever your shrine looks like, that's not the point. The point is also for us to get to see, all the different shrines, and we believe, like when we see these shrines, we get blessed, no matter, how elaborate or not elaborate or simple, it doesn't matter in that sense, So some of you have yet to share, I think, don't be shy. Of course, if the technology you're using is complicated, and you are not able to share it, then certainly we understand. But my point is more encouraging you not to be shy, share the picture there. That will be, so I think I can speak for everyone that we have enjoyed seeing everyone's practice space, practice shrine. So now some of the housekeeping, but this is more like spiritual housekeeping matters. And now that we have covered the website housekeeping, now part of 101 I want to talk about is shrine, a practice focus, right? So the purpose of establishing a shrine, we'll use that word, the purpose of establishing a shrine, or in Tibetan they call it lakang, like deity house, a house for the deities, right? A place where, so even in that expression, it's a place, a dedicated space where the deities are more present. Of course, that we mean it in the relative sense, because the Dharmakaya of all Buddhas pervades everything. The Dharmakaya aspect, the fundamental reality state, everything is pervaded by it. So from the ultimate sense, you really can't say, oh, this is more holy than this is more sacred than this. Oh, here Buddhas are more present than over here, From that perspective, we cannot say that. But from the perspective of providing us with a focal point, then that is the purpose of having a dedicated space. And that dedicated space, it can be as big as you want it to be, and you can have it to be, and it can be as small as you want it to be and can have it to be. There's even like these traveling shrines, even if you're not traveling, you can also have a traveling shrine and just have a little box, open up, and then inside there is a shrine. In fact, Joe, when you get a chance, take a picture of Ophelia's shrine in her room. That's a little cute one. It's my goddaughter's personal shrine in her room. You can, Joe, you can share it on that shrine page, shrine discussion thread. That'll be cute. So it can be as, elaborate or as simple as, necessary. Yeah. Now, in terms of then establishing a shrine, a practice focus, there are some kind of guidelines, some principles that we want to be aware of. Now, all of these things is all based on, like, you have the ideal situation, the best case scenario, and often the best case scenario and the ideal is not what's possible in your context. Then again, that's the part where I say you need to consider your own process, So first thing is, of course, to kind of make it obvious, where you put your shrine will depend on finding a place that is most conducive to you sitting there doing practice. So in terms of where you place your shrine. Now, of course, our friends who are born in Asia, in Buddhist like families and tradition, there the principle is different. There it's like put the shrine in the most public visible space as possible. That's the tradition, you know. So often, you know, the minute you walk in the front door, you know, staring at you right in front of you is the family shrine. Yeah? Especially in Chinese families. Tibetan families, sometimes that's the case, or sometimes Tibetan families, if they are wealthy or wealthy enough, they have a whole room. The entire room is the shrine. So they will have their shrine room. Some even would build like a building on the top floor of their whole house. Bhutanese, Tibetan, Ladakhi, on the very top floor is a whole shrine room. Yeah, and with carved cabinets, you know, like for them really, like the most expensive thing in the whole house is the shrine room. Carved, you know, cabinets, statues, as expensive as they can afford for the family, then often is passed down from generation to generation. So the deities, you know, the deity statues are passed down from generation to generation. Yeah. So for them, you know, because of the tradition. Now, for those of us who are not born in that, you know, then you are starting everything from scratch. Then I would say the main thing is choose a place that is most conducive to your sitting there without being distracted, being able to do your practice. So that's first point. Yeah. Then second point is, again, depending on your, like, how much space you have, you know, in your apartment, in your house, you know, that you have to take into consideration. Key thing is, at the end of the day, the Buddhas are not going to say, oh, you put me in the wrong place, so I'm not going to help you. It's not like that. Or you put me in the wrong place, I'm not going to come. That's just, you know, our own, like, yeah, confused mind, you know, playing tricks. Yeah. So you don't need to worry about that. But there are things like, for example, you know, if at all possible, you don't really want to put the shrine where every night you go to sleep, your feet are like, you know, presented to the deities. But if there's really no choice, right, nowhere else for you to put the shrine, then you have to put it there, you know. Then maybe I recommend, you know, diligently washing your feet every night, you know, before you present your feet to the deities. So that could be part of your practice, you know, washing your feet very clean, you know, then present to the deities, right? But otherwise, you know, the deities are not going to get upset, you know. If anything, it's just for our own sake, right? So the guiding principle is don't put a shrine without really thinking about what does it mean if I put the shrine here? What does it mean if I put the shrine there? So we want to do it with intention and understanding. Yeah. Yes, you will hear like instructions like saying, oh, you should really not put your shrine in a place where you are going to be like having, you know, sexual activity going on. Yeah, of course, you know, again, it's our own mind, you know, that kind of play tricks on us, right? So if you avoid that, that's good. You know, you kind of keep things a little separate because when you do your practice, you really don't want your thoughts to wander to other distractions. So one of the very powerful distraction is, of course, sexual desire, you know. So hence the teachings say, you know, the instructions say, you kind of, you know, separate. But you know, there are also lamas who say, you know, well, if you really don't have a choice, you know, that you live in a one room, you know, apartment, yeah, or a one room space, you know, then you just be like intentional about what you do, and where you establish this practice shrine, this practice space. Yeah. So that's the in terms of space. Then they say, no matter where you put your deity house, right? Your shrine, yeah. When you sit down and do practice, you want to think you are facing eastward. Doesn't matter if actually on the compass it's showing east or not. Mentally, you want to think, I'm now facing east. This is based on the idea that the deity is kind of situated in the eastern direction. Why? Psychologically, it's very clear why. The sun rises from there. And the sun is the symbol of brightness, wisdom, clarity. So it says, faced the eastern direction. So they say, no matter where you establish your shrine, from time to time to kind of, when you sit down, you think, the Buddhas are looking at me, right? So that means the Buddha's backs, right, are in the eastern direction. Then they're looking at us, so we're facing them. So that's the meaning of. And then, of course, you know, if you have the ability and the choice, and if it fits well in a room to actually put them in the eastern direction, then even more helpful. Yeah. Any questions before I move on about shrines? There's quite a bit to cover.
Sorry. So
yeah,
deity's back is to the east.
Mm-hmm. So that you sit and you are facing east. Yeah. And if that's not actually, you know, on the compass showing that, you think it is that. Yeah, Vajrayana really emphasizes this, you know, and say, you think it is that, because in the end, it's our mind that we're trying to change, you know. Not interior decorating. Yeah. Okay. I move on? Yeah. Okay. Now, what to put? Yeah. So on a shrine, two groups of kind of objects. One is what we call the objects of offering, and second, the offerings. The objects of offering are not literally the objects, but in Tibetan they call it ten. Ten literally supports. So what that's referring to is, what is a ten? Ten is a Buddha statue, a Buddha painting, a stupa, you know, any of the sacred objects, those are called ten. So every shrine would need a ten, at least one, right? Otherwise, then there's no shrine, right? So at least one ten. Yeah. Then the things that we offer. In the Tibetan tradition, the most common offering is the set of what's known as the 8 offerings. So the 8 offerings are represented with 7 bowls, usually, with 1 lamp. So that becomes 8, right? So that's what we call the 8 offerings. So in fact, the 8 offerings is in our text, but in Sanskrit, on page 7, our opening prayer. Argam padyam pushpe dupe aloke gende nevede shabda. Those are the 8. Argam is water for the mouth, to drink, to rinse, to quench thirst. Argam. Padyang is the water for washing feet. Pushpe is flowers. Dupe is incense. Aloke is lamp or light. Gande is perfume, often translated as perfume, but it's really closer to the notion of like lotion. Yeah, it's something to apply on the body that not only smells good, but it's actually seen as a way to cool down the body. So in ancient India, it's sandalwood paste. Sandalwood has the medicinal quality of cooling quality. So it cools you down. So that's what Gande is sandalwood paste, but by extension, now we say it's perfume. Nevedya is food. Shabda is music. So 7 bowls with a lamp. That's a very traditional Tibetan presentation. Certain Tibetan traditions will have 6 bowls and a lamp. Why? Because they say Shabda, music, is not a physical object, it's sound. Therefore, no need to put the 8th bowl. Not that you cannot, okay? Just no need. For those who do present an 8th bowl, and they put an object there, then often the object is a conch shell, because you can use a conch shell if you drill a hole and everything and make sounds, and make it a horn. So sometimes people put a conch shell. Sometimes people put these symbols, little symbols, tingsha. And then many years ago, this is really many years ago, because when I tell you, you'll know why. In the Buddhist, in the FPMT Center in London, it's in the Battersea Park area. On their shrine, for the music, right, they have an MP3 player and an iPod. You all remember iPod? Yeah, so there's an iPod, you know, put on there. So to represent like music. Yeah. So incidentally, in Drigung Kagyu, usually music is not represented. So 6 bowls and a lamp. Then these 6 bowls or 7 bowls and a lamp, you can have the objects all laid out. So the argyam and the padyam is 2 bowls of water. Then pushpe is a flower. You can put a little vase and stick a flower in there. If you use fresh flowers, then you change every few days. If you use an artificial flower, then, you know, or plastic or cloth flower or paper flower, then you don't need to change so frequently. Then dupe incense, you first put like some rice, you know, at the bottom to fill the bowl. Uncooked rice, some grains, yeah. Then you stick a few sticks of incense in it. And interestingly, you don't light that incense. Yeah. Again, that's just the tradition. Don't ask me why. That incense you don't light. You just stick a few sticks of incense in there. Next to that is the lamp. Lamp. Now, again, don't ask me why. The incense you don't light, but the lamp you do light. So here, out of convenience, most of us use like a tea light for the lamp. Next to it is gande, that perfume. Then normally, also just a bowl of water. Next to that is the food. Food, if you want to put a food, then you put like a fruit. Of course, if people who know how to make these tormas, they will make this barley dough torma and they put it there. But now you can also buy these torma food torama that is basically metal or carved out of wood to represent it. The metal ones actually are a little bit better, I feel, than the wood ones, because the metal ones, the inside is hollow. So normally then what you do is you fill it with grains. And then you shut it, and then you put it there. And then every week or whatever, you empty out the grains and you put, fresh grains in there. So then it can be food if you want to be really like closer to the native way of doing it. But otherwise, a fruit, an orange, a pear, an apple, as the food offering. Now, this is if you lay out all the respective objects. Otherwise, this is a tradition that it is said that Lord Atisha recommended. It is said that when Atisha in the 11th century came to Tibet, and he taught the Tibetans, okay, you need to have these 8 offerings, and first bowl you put water, second bowl you put water, third bowl you put flour, and then I'm sure immediately, they're like, what are flowers? Because, there are no like flowers the way and they're like tiny, tiny flowers in the summer. In many parts of Tibet on the grassland, they're like tiny, tiny flowers. And they're like a rose or a magnolia, a hibiscus. That doesn't grow in most parts of Tibet. So anyway, long story short, Atisha said, the water in Tibet, he says, is so amazing. So he says, actually, just fill all the bowls with water. And water, he says, has the nature of being able to represent anything that the mind desires. In a way, water is the basis of life. So Atisha said, just use this fresh water. Atisha came from, South Asia in the 11th century. So clean water wasn't so easy to get, Atisha came from Bengal, 11th century, clean water, a headache, So when he got to Tibet, he was like, oh my God, the water here is really amazing, So he says, okay, just offer water. So for most people, unless there is a special occasion, then it's usually just filled with water, the 6 bowls or the 7 bowls. Then that water, the tradition is you fill that water every morning. Then at the end of the day, before the sun sets, ideally, you empty that water, you wipe the bowls dry, and you turn the bowls over. The main point there is you don't want to offer stale water. So you want to change it every day. And I believe that this tradition of saying you should empty them out before it's at night, I believe, because I've heard some Khenpo say they have not found in any of the original tantric texts where it says you have to do this. So some of the Khenpo say, as in the learned, monks, they say, this is probably a Tibetan kind of emphasis. And I'm thinking, and the Tibetan emphasis is because in many parts of Tibet, especially in the winter, these bowls, if you don't empty them, they're going to freeze. And if they freeze a few times, they're going to break. Try leaving a metal container frozen overnight for a few winters. Eventually, that will break. And so I think that's why the tradition of emptying the water before sunset. To me, the more important underlying principle is basically that the water that you offer on your shrine should be kept fresh. So don't just do it once a week, And then towards the end of the week, the water has gone halfway down. Right? Like even your cats, you don't do that, don't do that to the deities. So that's what you offer, the most common. Now, you say, I don't know, If you don't know, then don't force yourself to do this. Then you can put like a glass of water to symbolize like purity and all that is desirable. Yeah. You can have a flower. Then you offer what's really meaningful to you, what touches your heart, you offer that. Having said, like the most traditional are the 8 offerings. But you see, what really touches your heart. I think that's much more important. Yeah. Then in terms of these offerings, there are more details we can go into. I don't want to overwhelm you. There's a particular way of like, starting with which side, and then when you dry the bowls, basically there's one principle involved, like it's called the labor union principle. So, last hired, first fired. So the last bowl of water that you fill in the morning is the first bowl of water that you empty in the evening. Last hired, first fired. That's the principle. Yeah. Again, in Drigung Kagyu norm tradition, often the order of like Argyam, Padyam, Pushpe, Dupe, right? The general order is, say you're looking at your shrine right now, yeah? Then it's left to right. Set up from left to right. Argyam, Padyam, Pushpe, Dupe. So if you're looking at your shrine, yeah? If you're looking at your shrine, then it's left to right. Generally speaking, there are always exceptions. And there's nothing wrong, right to left either. But I'm just describing to you, if you go into a Drigung Kagyu monastery or nunnery, what you're most likely to see is arranged from left to right. But there will be ritual occasions where it's right to left. And then there's even a ritual occasion where it's closest to you to further away from you. So set out as columns rather than rows. There's all sorts of variations. Yeah. The question, the rice. The rice there, of course in Tibet they use barley. So you can use rice, you can use corn, any kind of grains. It's just so that you can hold the incense, right? Then, if rice or grains, as Melissa points out, little creature will come and eat them. You don't want to encourage that. Then you can put like some kind of semi-precious stones, like crush, semi-precious stones, and then you stick your incense. Yeah. Then the burning of the incense, yeah, is usually burned, like I said, not as this row, but somewhere further on the ground. The incense burner. This is Tibetan tradition. Yeah? In a lot of like East Asia, like Chinese tradition, like our friends, many of you guys here, the incense usually you don't put on the floor. They think it's a little bit disrespectful. So this is cultural. The Tibetan reason why they put on the floor is it also makes a lot of sense, because smoke goes up, So if you put it at the same level as you, smoke is going up, So they put it on the floor, usually a box with ash in there, and there is where you burn that incense. So this is about shrine. So questions? Yes. Let's see. What do you do with the water? So the water every day when you empty, yeah. So you usually you have a pitcher that you put aside that is just for filling water. And don't like mix it. Again, it's all about what's available to you. If really you live very minimally, right? Then you have only one pitcher in the whole house, then it's fine. Use the same thing, But don't, like yourself, you live lavishly. Your shrine, you're like, oh, it's the thought that counts. Yeah, exactly. It's the thought that counts. So not a lot of thought has gone into it. I sometimes say to people, now I don't want you guys to misunderstand, I make this point, and when you hear it, you might feel a little, so don't feel bad about it. The point is not to make you feel bad about it, This is related to how I say Tibetan families, Like if you look at Tibetan families, Ladakhi families, Bhutanese family, of course they have a whole culture supporting this way of doing things. So it's different from us, But if you look at them, you walk into their house, often the most expensive thing in the house is their shrine. I'm not saying, that you need to spend a lot of money on your shrine. Don't misunderstand me. But at the same time, I'm saying, when you look at the way we live, then we can kind of say, what are my priorities? Now, those of you who live with other people, with your spouse, your family, maybe no choice, But if you live alone, and you have a 60-inch TV, and then you have a 3-inch Buddha, it says something. It says something. It's not saying you're a bad person. No, I'm not saying that. It just says, right now, a bigger chunk of my resources I am happily spending on TV, and I'm spending less on this particular aspect. Then be realistic, right? Whatever meditation, whatever practice you do, probably that much effect is also going to come. So I say, when you walk in your house, you can take a look and you can kind of see, what is my object of refuge? Sometimes we say, oh, but look, Milarepa, he had nothing. But he was such a great practitioner. Those of you who know Milarepa. Yeah, Milarepa doesn't walk around with an iPhone. It's like, whereas, I'm going to get an iPhone, and then you say, what? The offering bowls is like $50? Oh, no, I don't think so. Is there like, can I get plastic ones? Yeah, of course you can. Buddhists don't care, But is it going to work for you? That's what matters. Yeah? That's what matters. Is it going to work for you? So then, in terms of the objects, the supports, really, if you ask me, I feel that simple is best. Simple, but with intention, with sincerity, even just downloading a very nice image online, printing it, taking the effort, taking the trouble to go find a frame that is a nice frame. All of that is part of our practice. Yeah? At the same time, you know, you could be someone who has so much money that you don't even think twice about spending money, and then you just go online, click, 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 and you buy, you know, a statue that is $10,000, but not much heart has gone into it, yeah, not much care has gone into it, then it means nothing as well. So again, it's not about, I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money on any of these things. It's your sincerity, your attention, your care, you're taking care of establishing something important to you, meaningful to you. That is important. And then, starting with a Buddha image. And personally, if you ask me, I said, you know, like the Buddha as all Buddhists would recognize as the Buddha. So the Buddha Shakyamuni or any of the Buddha's images like Buddha Shakyamuni, that's a good one, like to have, because that's our immediate reference point, right, to what it means to be awake. So that. Then often you will also hear that there should also be a text, like a sutra, and then there should also be like a stupa, because then together they represent the body, speech, and mind of the awakened ones. So the image or the statue or the painting represents the awakened or exalted body. The Dharma text, the sutra, they often say it should really be a sutra, as in the Buddha's words, not like a commentary and not like a modern book written by some Buddhist teacher. Ideally, it is the Buddha's word. So like the Heart Sutra, the Lotus Sutra, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, one sutra like this to represent the speech, exalted speech of the Buddhas, and then a stupa. If you don't have a stupa, a picture of a stupa, maybe a famous stupa, like the stupa in Bodh Gaya, the stupa in Bodha in Nepal, something like that. That represents the Buddha's mind, right? Now, I want to point out, like, this emphasis to have an image of the Buddha, whether painted or statue, a text, and a stupa or a picture of a stupa. What I have observed is that this is more consistently, this particular instruction, this particular emphasis is given by teachers from the Gelugpa lineage, which is the lineage that the Dalai Lama comes from. In other lineages, although they recognize that, yes, these would represent the body, speech, and mind of Buddhas, there's less emphasis on a statue, a book, and a stupa. Yeah, I've noticed that. So I go to many places, you know, visiting people, teaching, and then when I observe and see their shrine, I can kind of guess how they started. If they started with a Gelugpa influence, more likely than not, their shrine is going to have those three things. And then if they started as Nyingmapa or Kagyupa, which is kind of loosey-goosey, then it can be anything, you know. Then, you know, like if you look at like Tibetan homes and their shrine, they don't necessarily have, you know, the book, the statue, the stupa. In fact, if you look at most Tibetan people's shrines, you know, it's like jam-packed with everything. Because in part is so many generations of, you know, passing down. Yeah, so it tends to be really crowded. A big cabinet, you know, with everything in there. After a while, you know, you have so many sacred images accumulated. But I think, again, for us, keep it simple so that it's not too busy, and then keep kind of elegant, and you can focus better. And it's good. It's good to have like Buddha Shakyamuni as the main image. But if you really feel, oh, Tara, I really feel, then yes, you put Tara. Yeah. Now you have more than one image. You have several, right? Then there are certain kind of conventions that you should be aware of. So in general, for example, you wouldn't put like a protector deity, in a prominent place, because the protector deity is the protector deity. So it should kind of have a secondary placement. Then, if you have three things, right? The central one obviously is like the main one. Then to the right of the central one is considered the heavier of the two sides. To the right of the main one. Then to the left. So it's usually arranged like that. So when you look at tankas, when they paint tankas, usually then, if there's a chronology of, say, masters, right? Who lived first, then who was teacher to whom, then to the right side, left side, right side, left side, right side, left side, to the right of the central image. That's sort of like the relative placement of these deities. Yeah. Yes, shrine right and shrine left. Yeah, to the right of the central. To the right of the central. So that's the other thing, the convention. Whenever Tibetans talk about the position of deities, they always speak from the perspective of the deity, or what we in English would call stage right and stage left. Meaning from the perspective of deities. So if you're standing in front of a shrine, and then somebody says, yeah, on the right side is da 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 da, then you should know what they're. If they know the right way of talking, then you should know that they're talking about, stage right and stage left. Yeah. How about stupa and sutra? What do you mean?
I mean, does it have a position to say that the stupa should be on the right and the sutra will be on the left also?
Yeah.
Or does it matter?
Yeah, the body is in the middle, and then, to tell the truth, I've seen both ways. Yeah. I've seen both ways. I'm trying to look at my shrine. Do I have those things? I sort of have those things, but they are not they're not so strictly placed one place or the other. Heavier meaning, no, I'm talking about, you have right side, you have the left side. The right side is the heavier side, meaning the more important side. Like it's left and right. If you have three things, then the central one should be the most important. Then the right is the next, and then the left is the next. Yeah. What does it mean when the teacher blesses the shrine objects? Oh, good, yes. It is actually a consecration ritual whereby the wisdom beings are, in the ritual language, invited to dissolve into the object. We can talk about that in the future. There's quite a bit to kind of learn about that. So in fact, Tibetans prefer that these statues are empty inside when you first get them. Then you fill the inside with all kinds of mantras and sacred objects, so that each statue, like bronze statue, brass statue, right? The inside needs to be carefully prepared and filled. It's called zung. Zung actually means dharani, but the process of filling statues with dharani has become also called zung. So people will say, does it have zung? That means, has it been filled? So the filling of the statues with many mantras, and the meaning of that is two things, which is first, I would say, the tradition doesn't say this, but we can think of it this way. It's a very good lesson, which is what is inside, in fact, is more important than what's outside. So what is filled inside the statue is what's really kind of full of blessings. And inside, what is filled inside is many different mantras. So even like a statue of Buddha Shakyamuni, let's say, right? There are different mantras in there. At the very top of that statue is often filled with mantras and prayers to the lineage gurus. Then on the like nose level, some other Buddha mantras are in there. Then on the like lowest level, it's like mantras of the protector gods are there. The mantras of the wealth deities are there. So in fact, no matter what the statue looks on the outside, the inside is usually, you can say, many different mantras of the Buddhas, of the different Buddha principles are filled in there. So that in fact, it's not just Buddha Shakyamuni, it's not just Tara, it's not just Manjushri. In fact, it's the union of all awakened beings. So these statues that are filled, they are filled with all kinds of different mantras. Okay? We can continue this. Your questions, comments, you can go to the forum, and I will start looking at the forum. But sometimes these forums, whether forum or on the Facebook, I try not to say anything first. It's good for people to share and don't be afraid or shy about saying the wrong things. No, we are now a sangha, so we rely on each other. Then then I will when I see like I have something to say, then of course I will say.
Dr. Lai.
Yes.
I know Indian people, some of my friends put pictures of their family on the shrine or around the shrine. They also put jewels, things of gold. So what's that in Tibetan?
In Tibetan Buddhism, pictures of family is usually not put on the shrine. Even like deceased, for sure, like living family members, they don't. Then deceased family members, in fact, more old-fashioned Tibetans don't keep pictures of deceased people. And there is a cultural sense that, when you do that, they get stuck, they cannot move on. In old Chinese families, in fact, they will burn all the pictures of someone who has passed on. They say, otherwise they get stuck and they cannot move on. But these are all kind of cultural levels of comfort. So now the question, what about us, I think if we're going to place family members' pictures onto the shrine, then that is where the spatial hierarchy, I think, is important. Yeah. So you wouldn't want to put, like, no matter how much you love your grandpa or grandma, like the pictures like hanging above the Buddhas, then it's kind of, you get confused, who is the object of refuge, right? So instead, if you place them more on the side, right? And like lower, then in a way, you connect them, right? With your practice, with your objects of refuge. And that's wonderful. Even pictures of pets, who have passed on. Yeah. And just understand the spatial hierarchy principle. Then in terms of like jewelry, in fact, Tibetans have one tradition related to that, which is every time they travel, not everybody does it, but it's a good thing to do. Each time they travel, they will buy a jewelry to offer to the Tara statue. Almost all Tibetans will have a Tara statue in their house. Then the Tara statue will be decked with a lot of bling bling. It's sort of like, because Tara protects. So when you come home from traveling as Thanksgiving, you give Tara an ornament. Yeah. Or like in Drigong, you give Achi. Yeah, if you have an Achi statue, Also, particularly for those of you who know Achi, also people like to buy little animal figurines, like farm animal usually, and put on their Achi shrine. Little farm animals. Because in Tibet, it's like farm animals is basically wealth, right? Nomadic old Tibet. So to put figurines of that is sort of also to have Achi protect, right, your livestock, your wealth, your property. Yeah, it's related to that. Is that tradition about praying while setting the offering bowls? Oh yeah, there are lots of details like that. So slowly, we'll talk about that. The question is that, is there, when you're filling the water offerings, what should you be thinking? What should you be saying? Oh, there's so much details, Mainly now, I would say, is do it with intention, do it with mindfulness, do it with an understanding that now I am laying out offerings to the objects of refuge. Start with that. That I'm doing this out of respect, out of admiration, out of sincerity. Cultivate that state of mind, and also mindfulness, awareness. So they say, that there are further details how to fill the bowls. It can get complicated, but I think sometimes too much of the technique is taught, and the reason for the technique is forgotten, then it becomes very mechanical. And I think that's not how it should be done. Yeah. Okay, if you don't have a burning question, I think we should end now. As I said, we should not take you away longer than what you said to your family you will be away for. They will get upset. And then they will resent your Dharma practice, and that is not good. Or even if your pets get jealous of your Dharma practice, then you cause your pets to create negative karma. Should not do that. Okay, let's do the dedication. So page 22. Page 22 in our text is the dedication. We'll do it in English. Also do it in the style that we did the opening. And so for dedication, then the whole time of dedication is this Anjali mudra, because this is in a way a prayer. So we're dedicating, we're expressing. Yeah? So then we use the Anjali Mudra. Great Vajradhara Dilipa Naropa Marpa Milarepa Dharma Lord Gampopa Pomodrupa and Conqueror Drigumpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessings of all you Kagyu Gurus. By this merit may I achieve the all-knowing state. May all who wander on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating enemies of faults and delusions. By the virtues collected in the 3 times in samsara and nirvana and the innate virtue, in the primordially co-emergent mandala of the mind, may I realize the exalted intention of Jigten Gompo, the indivisibility of the two truths in the exalted form of Vajradhara. In all lifetimes, may I never be separated from the perfect Gurus, but enjoy the richness of the glorious Dharma. Having thoroughly perfected the exalted qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. May the 80,000 classes of obstructors be pacified, thus freeing this place from unfavorable and harmful conditions. May harmonious and excellent endowments be established, and with this auspiciousness bring about bliss and happiness. May there be well-being in the world and good harvest, much yield of grain and flourish of dharma. May auspiciousness be established in all places, and all that is wished for fulfilled. May the collection of favorable conditions and resources for the dharma, for ourselves and others, be fulfilled accordingly to our wishes. May the multitudes of diseases, evil spirits, obstructors, hindrances, and others be appeased and pacified. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray for the excellent health of the Gurus, and may the Guru's supreme life be long. May the Guru's activity spread far and wide, and may it be blessed not to be separated from the Gurus. Just as heroic Manjushri knows everything as it is, and Samanta Bhadra, who is thus as well, so too will I follow in their path and perfectly dedicate all the virtues accumulated. Through this dedication, praised as supreme by the conquerors of the 3 times, I dedicate all of these roots of virtues to accomplishing the noble deeds. By the blessings of the Buddhas who have attained the 3 kayas, by the blessings of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessings of the indivisible Sangha order, may these dedication and aspiration prayers be accomplished. By the truth of the 3 jewels and the blessings of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and by the great might of the complete perfection of the 2 accumulations, and by the strength of the completely pure and inconceivable Dharma Dhatu, may this be attained accordingly. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and in the entirety of samsara and nirvana, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. By the teachings of the truth of the Kagyu Gurus, the excellent 3 Idams, Dhakinis, and Dharmapalas, may the spiritual and temporal places of the tradition of the 2nd Nagarjuna flourish. Whatever discordant faults that may cause harm may arise, may they be pacified, and may there be abundant prosperity and happiness. May the teachings of the great Drigumpa Ranashri, the all-knowing Dharma Lord, Master of Interdependence, continue to increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. By the power of the virtues collected in accordance with the teachings of the pure realizations of the unmistaken teacher, may the teachings of Ranashri of Drigum, the protector of the 10th Bhumi, flourish perpetually. Okay. Good night, good day, good in between.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Buenas noches.
Thank you.
Next week.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Thank you and goodbye all.
Buenas noches.
Good night, everyone.
Gracias.
Good night. Good morning.
See you all.